Mr. Russo, are you good?
Yeah.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the Newton Town Council meeting of November 25th, 2019. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, if you could do the roll call, please.
Mr. Dixon?
Here.
Mrs. Diglio?
Here.
Mr. Flynn?
Here.
Mr. Schlaffer?
Here.
Mayor Laffois?
Here. All right, in accordance with the Open Publics Meeting Act, notice of this regular meeting was given to the two newspapers of record and posted on the official bulletin board on January 4th, 2019. In your council materials, you received the minutes from the November 13th regular meeting and the November 13th executive session. Are there any additional corrections, amendments, deletions, changes?
There were several spelling corrections to the regular meeting, which were done this morning.
Okay, any additional? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of November 13th regular and executive session.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Diglio and a second by Councilman Dixon. Roll call vote, please, for the November 13th regular and executive meeting minutes.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schlaffer?
Yes.
Mayor Laffois?
Yes. At this point in the meeting, the Town Council welcomes comments from any member of the public on any topic to help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit the opportunity for anyone who wishes to be heard. Speakers are asked to take one turn at the microphone and please limit their comments to 5 minutes. The clerk will keep time. If reading from a prepared statement, please provide a copy and email a copy to the clerk's office after making your comments so it may be properly reflected in the minutes. Council may choose to comment after the entire public portion has concluded. Do we have any public comments at this time?
James Hoffman, 37 Duma Drive. About a month ago, I came to you with concerns and questions, none of which have been addressed, and now appear to have been ignored, as I see there is a resolution to extend Mr. Russo's contract until 2023 on the consent agenda. You know the townspeople have concerns, have brought their concerns to you, but you don't allow for public comment before agreeing to another 4-year contract and a raise. Newton townspeople employees are concerned about Mr. Russo's attendance and availability. Our tax dollars already pay Mr. Russo more money than other managers of larger towns. Warwick, New York, a town of about 7,500, pays their manager $65,000. Every storefront is filled. Boonton, New Jersey, on the train line to New York City, population 8,354, pays their administrator $150,000. Hackettstown, New Jersey, a college town, on a train line with a population of 9,724, pays their chief financial officer, mayor, in the 65 to 95,000 range. Byram, New Jersey, population 7,983, pays their town manager $122,314. Randolph, New Jersey, population of 20,954, pays their town manager $168,000. Morristown, New Jersey, the county seat of Morris County, with a population of 19,037, pays their business administrator $178,000. Denville, New Jersey, also on the train line with a population of 16,635, pays their business administrator $112,700. Hopatcong, New Jersey, population 15,147, pays theirs $129,250. Mr. Russo's hometown, Burnett Township, with a population 27,061, pays their administrator, Pat Monaco, $164,000. Why does Mr. Russo make more than $159,000 in Sussex County? Newton has a population of 7,960. We pay him much more than other comparable towns in the area, and nearly as much as managers and administrators of towns 3 and 4 times the size of Newton. Mr. Russo's $159,000 is just a base salary, in addition to what we give him a car, carte blanche driving, fuel, repair privileges, flexible hours, whatever, and coaching. He's been getting at our expense. The permission to be CEO of his own consulting company. Why? Question mark. What's the council's justification for ignoring all this? Why pay Tom Russo well above the going rate for town management? Why do we pay for his car and unlimited gas and mileage? Why is he permitted to have flexible hours? People are expected to report to work every day. I'm sure you do, or you wouldn't get paid. Why is he permitted to have his own consulting company? Why do we make payments to someone who works for the same firm? What are these coaching fees that we, you, the council members, have been paid for? Did his performance review include his handling of the pool this last year? The over-budgeted firehouse? Why have you not explored other candidates who live within the area? The county, at least. Taxpayers might be okay with Mr. Russo's salary if he sat in his office 5 days a week and put in his time in the community, as he should. If all the Spring Street storefronts were completely filled with thriving businesses, if he lived in Newton, if he paid taxes here, if he shopped here, he's got no skin in the game. We voted for you to represent the town of Newton and its taxpayers. Us. Please answer our questions before committing to another contract for Mr. Russo. Thankfully. Thank you.
Margaret Baldini, Barry Lane. You were all given this information previously, but it was not read into the record, so I'm going to read it now. According to an interview published May 31st by Be Your GPS, aka Become Your Greatest Possible Self, a weekly Facebook live stream video and podcast which interviews leaders and influencers, Mr. Russo has a second, third, fourth, and fifth job on top of the one he has here. If not a conflict of interest, there certainly appears to be a conflict of time. And we have a link to the interview in our notes. He is an adjunct professor at Seton Hall University and Pillar College. He is the author of a book published earlier this year. He is reportedly an editor of some sort. He is an empowerment speaker and coach. On top of all of that, he is a CEO and founding member of the Valori Group, a securities consultant firm serving other municipalities in New Jersey for what appears to be the last 3 years. And we have a note that you can visit the website, Valori Group. It's the ValoriSecurityGroup.com. As part of this career with Valori, Mr. Russo offers expert services in the areas of leadership training and development, executive coaching and consulting, public information officer training, public relations training, recruitment of business managers and administrators, town managers, public information officers, fundraising and strategic planning, project planning, and oversight, as well as economic revitalization and redevelopment. His last contract affords him $159,000 plus annual bonuses and vacation sick time buybacks, plus 20 vacation days each year. In addition to the compensation package, Mr. Russo enjoys other benefits. The town pays for multiple professional memberships and conferences associated with his profession here. His contract affords him membership in the International City Council Management Association and the NJ Municipal Management Association. Sorry. The town also allows Mr. Russo to attend the ICMA conference, the NJMMA conference, as well as this NJ State League of Municipalities conference. According to his last contract, the town has agreed to pay for his travel, hotel, and registration fees. Do these memberships and conferences solely help the town of Newton and its town manager, Or could they also benefit Mr. Russo's consulting firm? Did the council know of Mr. Russo's other commitments when you agreed to his 2017 contract, as it does not include normal attendance expectations? Instead, his contract states the town manager does not have set hours to work, but he is expected to be available during normal municipal office business hours. An endeavor to make himself available via phone and/or email. Did any prior managers enjoy such a flexible schedule? Another provision grants him a commuter vehicle for in-state and primarily work-related purposes without mileage restrictions. The contract does not restrict him from using the vehicle for non-Newton work purposes. The town also agreed to pay for the maintenance, fuel, insurance, and registration, and also pay for a AAA membership. As some of you agreed to this, can you shed light on this agreement? Is Mr. Russo's vehicle to be used exclusively for his work within the town of Newton, or is he permitted to use it for his other jobs? Is this mileage accounted for in any other way? I mean, let's see, what else? Prior to this, or a performance appraisal, does the council receive a copy of Mr. Russo's billable hours to Valori Group? How many hours does he work as the town manager compared to as the CEO and consultant? Does Valori Group have a relationship with any of the consultants that Newton uses? Let's see here. Over several months of expense reports, thousands of dollars have been paid to other coaches for executive coaching. Sorry, I'll stop it up here. Can you shed some light on this? A spreadsheet was provided to you regarding these expenses. Thank you.
Any other public comments at this time? Okay, we'll close that portion of the meeting. Okay, so I have a few updates and comments. On November 14th, Councilwoman Diglio and Councilman Dixon and I attended the Sussex County Community College Funding Their Future event. Thought it was well done. I got a report later on that they raised over $60,000 for scholarships. I thought they did a great job with many of the students being there. I know we each had students at our tables. The entertainment was great as well, so thank you for attending. Earlier that afternoon, we had the Greater Newton Chamber of Commerce meet and greet here in Town Hall. Again, Councilwoman Diglio, Councilman Dixon, along with Tom and many of the department heads were here, along with representatives from our police department, all providing members of the chamber as well as members at large and from the community and the public tours of the town. We're here to answer questions about services, hours, fees, operations, projects going on in town. So I thought it was a great conversation, very well attended. I'm sure Councilwoman Diglio will tell us the perspective from the chamber's side. The next day, again, Councilwoman Diglio and Councilman Dixon joined me and Governor Cody here. Governor Cody and the executive director from the Cody Fund were here to present Newton with the stigma-free signs. And again, recognizing Councilman Dixon for bringing that effort to us last spring. Governor Cody spent well over an hour with everyone in attendance, talked to everyone that was here individually, commented about the great things going on in the town. We presented him with the resolution, and he and his team actually, I think, liked our signs better than his signs and are looking to use our local sign vendor. But Governor Cody, we also had the opportunity, Dr. Green was here, and the police department, as I said, we had the opportunity to hear about everything that was going on in Newton, not just the activities associated with the stigma-free designation. And it was actually an opportunity for Dr. Green to talk about the mental health initiatives happening up at the high school, specifically around the green room, mental health counselors, the conversations and safe zones in and around the high school environment. So it was a great opportunity for some collaborative conversation with the governor, not just about the mental health services, but about the CLEAR program and other kind of social services initiatives that happen in and around the town of Newton. So I think he was pleasantly surprised when he was up here in the conversations that he had. The next day, I attended the Newton Medical Center's Festival of Lights event, which was always a fantastic event. Not just kind of a donor's reception, but really a lot of people from throughout the community come to the event because there's so many activities for the kids. There are so many activities involving all the local schools, and just an overall kind of good kickoff to the holiday season. I want to thank the Newton Police Department for their help, Newton Fire Department, and then Mutual Aid out of Andover and Frieden for all being there to make sure that everybody was safe and to help with the fireworks. Last week, in the middle of the week, Councilwoman Diglio, Deputy Mayor Flynn, our OEM Officer Teets, Ginny, Tom, myself, I'm missing somebody, attended the League of Municipalities Conference. Carol from the police department also attended. And I gotta tell you, for the elected officials that use the league for its intended purposes in terms of attending really great programs, there's a wealth of information to be had from the League of Municipalities. I know that Officer Teets and I were crossing paths lots of times coming in and out of programs. I was able to attend a session regarding best practices throughout the state of New Jersey on pilot programs, updates from our legislators on the path to progress. I attended a legislative leadership program talking about working together for a better New Jersey municipal government, state government, county government. I attended a session on P3 and municipal projects. These are about collaborations between the private sector and the public sector, some of which sounded like very much the projects that they use as an example, very much like some of the projects that we have coming up here in town or have already been done here in town. I attended a session entitled Building a Welcoming Brand Through Tourism Marketing, and although some of the projects that were highlighted were for some of the big cities or the shore areas, there were definitely some things that we could take from there in terms of Sussex County as a whole and kind of the tourism market up here. And then I attended a session called Using Innovation to Revive Abandoned Buildings. So, Tom, I'm going to put together some thoughts and pass along some contacts that I made and some information that I would like us to look in. I talked to a couple of people about the challenges with liquor licenses, and there were some suggestions in and around those. So I just thought that this year's league had some pretty diverse topics. I mean, there was lots of conversation around legalization of marijuana and taxes and all those types of things as well. But I thought that there was a lot of good content this year, whether you were going through the planning board, OEM, law enforcement, municipal government, tax assessors, clerk, whatever the subjects that you were looking for. I thought there was a lot of good information. So Deputy Mayor Flynn, I know that you've been sitting on the State League of Municipalities board and have influenced some of the conversations happening in terms of the content of the conference. So I want to thank you, and please pass on some of my thoughts about how well the program was ran. I thought the vendors were great too, and I thought that the app works really well because I was able to kind of take notes in real time and do some things. So it was nice to see the technology being used that way. So if you could just take those comments along. And then yesterday and today, I'm sure many of you know that Dominic V. Romano passed away, really the patriarch of the Renetco business. And, it's interesting I've known the family for a long time, but interesting to know about his story coming from immigrant family from Italy that really started a little candy store out of the front of their house in Netcong, and then they opened a supermarket and then kind of grew from there. But similar to Thor Labs, when you look at the philanthropy that comes out of Renetco and the Romano family, whether it's the hospital, schools, lots of social services organizations. It was nice to see so many people out to celebrate his life. So the funeral was earlier today. And then I know that we have a couple of officers here, and Tom, I'm going to pass this on to you, but I got a letter from the State of New Jersey Department of Corrections in the governor's office. And it's a great letter letting us know that our municipal detention facility was inspected by a staff from the state, and as a result of the inspection, it's the state's pleasure to inform the town of Newton that the Newton Police Department was found to be in full compliance with the requirements of NJAC 10A:34. You and your staff are to be congratulated on this achievement and are to be commended for the efforts made in preparation for this inspection. The hard work and dedication by the staff of your facility was evident to the members of the inspection team and certainly deserves special recognition. So I'll pass this down to you, but gentlemen, if you could take back to the chief and to others our thanks and appreciation for maintaining our facilities and professionalism that you showed to the state when they were here for the inspection. I appreciate that. Come back to some of those other conversations. I want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving, safe Thanksgiving this week. We have the parade on Saturday, which I'm sure, Sandy, you'll update everybody on. And of course, Saturday is also Small Business Saturday, which I'm sure Councilman Schlaffer will talk about as well. So for now, I'll pass it on to you, Deputy Mayor Flynn.
Yes, I attended the League of Municipalities Conference for work and both representing the town and the league last week. It was well attended. It was actually sold out by vendors, and that's the first time that I ever remember that happening. So that means the economy is doing well, and the exhibit space is vast, and it was all accommodated and rented. So it was a robust show. I attended the resolution committee hearing at 3 o'clock on Tuesday, where we went through the 29 resolutions of the League of Municipalities. All but 2 were passed. I co-sponsored one of the resolutions to allow county seats and other municipalities that are in financial distress to apply for additional liquor licenses to spur commercial development in the town. It was originally sponsored by the mayor of Flemington Borough, which they've been advocating for this for years. So I was happy to co-sponsor that, and that passed without any opposition at all. There's a lot of other great resolutions that passed. There's a summary available on the State League of Municipalities website. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Everybody stay safe and have nice travels with your family. I am suggesting that we pull the resolution for Tom Russo's contract off the consent agenda and just talk about it and then have a separate vote so we can directly address that from the dais. Because there's some things I don't want to say it in the council manager comments.
Okay. Councilman Diglio?
Okay. As you had mentioned, on November 14th, we had the meet and greet here at Town Hall. And on behalf of the Chamber, I would like to thank Tom and the staff for hosting the event. If anyone had any questions or concerns, there was more than ample opportunity to express them and get answers from the various departments. On November 16th, I too attended the Festival of Lights at Newton Medical Center, which I have done for many years. And the affair was very well attended. And I have to say the fireworks were enjoyed by all. It was a beautiful display, and I enjoy seeing the children and how they love when they're visiting with Santa Claus. November 19th through the 21st, I attended the League of Municipalities. I walked the floor and spoke with numerous presenters. I attended 2 sessions which I found very informative, actually the same 2 that Helen had attended. When I returned, I had all this information and I distributed it to the different departments. On November 24th, I had the honor and privilege to attend the 250th anniversary dinner celebration of the Christ Episcopal Church. It is hard to believe that we have a church in our town that was started 250 years ago. And this is not a direct quote because I kind of reworded it, but Christ Church is the oldest church in Newton and traces its origin to December 29th, 1769. When a congregation in communion with the Church of England was organized in what was then called New Town. The parish was later incorporated by royal charter on August 15, 1774. When you think about it, this church was actually formed during the Revolutionary War, and it just amazes me that we have such history in this town. Now, moving on to the parade. I have been working diligently on that, along with Small Business Saturday with Kimberly Williams. The parade will start at 10 o'clock sharp. It will be down at Lower Spring Street, proceed up Spring Street, go down Moran, and end in Memory Park. After the parade, there will be a gingerbread contest that's going to be held at the location where the
Theater arts program.
The theater arts program is. We're going to have several people, several singing groups actually on the street. Different businesses are offering discounts and refreshments as you go into their stores to shop. And the college is actually going to be in what used to be the Spring Street Pub and Grill. They will be serving coffee, hot cocoa, I believe cookies and brownies. We have opened up the front of that location for that purpose. And Santa Claus, of course, will be here. And he will be actually in two locations. First, he'll be in front of the firehouse, and then a little later on, he will be over at Jessica Cardwell's building. So I hope to see everybody there. It's going to be a fun day.
Councilman Schlaffer?
Yeah, as Mayor LaFois and Councilwoman Diglio mentioned, most of the small businesses in town will be running sales specials and giveaways on November 30th to celebrate Small Business Saturday. And just remind everyone, we need to support these local shops to provide the catalyst that we need to fill our commercial vacancies that we see on Spring Street. So stay off the internet, stay away from big box stores, go shop local.
Councilman Dixon?
All right, I just wanted to thank the Greater Newton Chamber of Commerce and all the town staff for putting together a meet and greet on the 14th. It was a good chance to be able to provide information and answer questions about the town. As the mayor said, on November 15th, Governor Cody was here in Newton to present the town with our stigma-free signs on behalf of the Cody Fund for Mental Health. These signs will proudly be displayed in hopes of furthering the conversation on mental health and breaking stigmas. I want to thank my fellow council members and Mr. Russo for recognizing the importance of this initiative and supporting it when I brought them to council. And tomorrow night, Board of Ed meeting, 7 p.m. at the board office.
Mr. Russo?
Sure. Before I address Peggy's comments and Mr. Hoffman, we are closed at 2:30 p.m. on Wednesday. I want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving. We're closed on Thursday and Friday. A reminder that the parade is at 10 a.m. on Saturday. I look forward to seeing everyone there. And then we have our tree lighting coming up. Tree lighting for Town Hall will be Friday, December 6th at 5:30 p.m. I want to thank Peggy and Mr. Hoffman for their comments, and especially Mr. Hoffman. I've always admired him for his work with the STEM program and his mentoring of the students, and respectfully would love for you to spend a day with me as town manager so you could see what I do, and I think maybe you would change your opinion, especially on days like when your police chief and your lieutenant come in and retire on the same day, etc. As far as the Valori Group, I'm no longer involved in the Valori Group. Never did any business with them, and I wish them well. If all of you could check out their website while you're sitting in the council chambers, you'll notice the difference. Secondly, as far as the municipal hybrid, that will be turned in on Saturday after the parade. So as of Saturday, I will not have a municipal vehicle. That will be a pool vehicle for general use. I'm not sure why people misrepresent my attendance at work, but I'm here every day, so I'm not sure why people are spinning some sort of different narrative. Plus, they're also not factoring in the work I do at night and on the weekends, and as the mayor and deputy mayor, and I'm sure all the council can attest to, I'm always accessible. I go out of my way to do emails and text messages and phone calls at night and on the weekend and holidays, and since I had a feeling this might come up, I had a video that I wanted to show everyone. Mayor, if you indulge me for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jessica Moore.
I'm Brian Conniver. Dana Tyler is off tonight. Thanksgiving did not go as planned for thousands of people in one New Jersey town. A water main break left them without water all day.
In fact, families had to scramble to come up with alternative plans, and many had to scrap their day entirely. CBS 2's Christine Sloan has the story.
A huge mess in Newton, New Jersey as crews try to get to a 16-inch water main that cracked on, of all days, Thanksgiving.
Early this morning around 7:30 we had a little bit of water, but within the last hour, now we have nothing.
The water main break leaving more than 8,000 residents with no water. Lori Brock and her fiance filling up jugs and bottles of water and taking their holiday goodies to her mom's house.
So I got my baking done yesterday, so that was helpful. So because we were able to fill the jugs and the water, I have enough to finish the cooking that I was doing. And then we just have to bring everything across town.
We're planning on having dessert here and maybe some cocktails later on. So we're not sure we're going to be able to do that.
They've dug up the street, repairing this water main. A lot of work. They actually have to replace it.
First step is they shut down valves to shut down the water coming in, right? Then the next thing they do is they pump out the water. So now that that's been taken care of, now they can find exactly where the cracks are, determine the length of pipe that needs to be replaced.
The town set up portable water trucks at different locations, including at this firehouse.
How long will it last?
We're keeping it filled up pretty much all night until the water comes back online.
I think that in the scope of things that could happen and go wrong, this isn't bad. Everybody we love is healthy, and so we still have a lot to be thankful for.
A good way of looking at the problem because officials say they'll be working on this through the night and into Friday. In Newton, New Jersey, in Sussex County, Christine Sloan, CBS News.
Officials believe the cold weather caused the water main to crack. The town is also getting emergency water to the local hospital and over to the county jail.
Thank you, Mayor, for indulging me. That's how I spent my Thanksgiving a few years ago while my wife sat in the car for the day. And I would do it all over again for the people in this town because that's how much I care about the town. As far as my teaching, yes, I teach at Pillar College, which is an evangelical Christian college. I teach at Seton Hall, which is a Catholic university. And yes, I wrote a best-selling book on my faith. Those are expressions of my faith. Several years ago, as some of you know, after suffering from anxiety and depression and thoughts of suicide, I became a born-again Christian. I get great joy in using the freedom of religion guaranteed by the Bill of Rights in walking with men in their life journey. My teaching predominantly African Americans and Latino students at Pillar College. I teach mostly women at Seton Hall about government and nonprofit management and leadership. As far as other administrators and managers, you can't really compare the salaries in New York and Pennsylvania to New Jersey, nor can you compare non-CEO administrator positions to town manager CEO positions. As far as the pool, I defend our actions on the pool. I'm grateful we're going to go out to bid to do the necessary repairs. As far as the firehouse, the architect misjudged the initial cost estimates. It wasn't a function of going over budget. Tom Cossin just simply made a mistake, and I don't think we need to relitigate that over and over. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Tom, thank you. I know that you feel the need to counter some of the comments that have been made publicly, online, perhaps to others on your team. And I know that the emotion that is coming from you is because you do take this job seriously, that you do have the best interests of the town at heart, and that the work that you do here is a priority for you. You did not choose to be in public office on this day as elected, where the criticism comes as part of the job. You're appointed by this council to do a job, and the council gets the opportunity to work along on that journey with you. And I know that we all have some comments as Deputy Mayor Flynn asked, that we'll be discussing the contract, but I want to take this particular moment to thank you for your comments just now, because you didn't have to do that. It's also not your comfort area to be showing vulnerability as you are. So I just wanted to recognize that and reserve some of the comments when we get to that portion of your contract. But thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to have another public session.
I know, it's not public, it's personal.
But I have to stick to the rules. You will have an opportunity in just a little bit, if that's okay. Thank you. Any other council manager comments at this time? Okay. We're going to move on to a presentation at this point. We have Officers Tietz and Finkel representing our Office of Emergency Management. If you guys will please come over. You have a presentation for us as part of our rotation of departments coming in to give the council an update on the good work that you're doing. I think Tom's going to bring up your, Tom already brought up your presentation. If you want to introduce yourselves and your role for the public's information.
Absolutely. My name is Ken Tietz, and I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator for the town of Newton. This organization, or this division, started back in 1988. It was spearheaded by my father, who was a sergeant at the Newton Police at the time, Bill Tietz. And in 2019, I stand in front of you guys as the coordinator, and I couldn't be happier. I really would like to thank the town council for allowing me the opportunity throughout the years to become the coordinator. I especially would like to thank the town manager. He is nothing but supportive towards me personally, our division, and he is there through thick and thin when I need him for opinions, for advice. That's just on a side note. First, I would like to thank the town council for, again, allowing us to do what we have to do as a division. And I really love my job. I really love to do the emergency management. But behind the scenes, I have a very special man that helps me, and that's Dan Finkel. He was my deputy coordinator. If it wasn't for him, I don't know where I would be today. He's the knowledge, wisdom of this, and I couldn't be happier. Not only is he my best friend, but he's also my co-worker. So I'm going to turn it over to him to go over what the agency does throughout the year. Dan?
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. My name is Dan Finkel. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me tonight. First of all, thank you to Ken, and thank you to the mayor, the council, and the manager for allowing us an opportunity to give a brief overview of what our department does here in Newton. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a mystifying thing, wondering, what is emergency management? You hear it all the time. You hear FEMA, these different terms, but we know what police do, firemen, EMS. We know what they do. What does emergency management do? It's kind of a little bit of a mystery to some people. So I'd like to shed some light on that tonight, hopefully, and hopefully you'll indulge me for a few minutes. So, as you heard Ken introduce, Ken is the coordinator of our department. Jason Miller and myself are his deputies. We support him in his role as the coordinator. In emergency management, we're not necessarily first responders. If you call 911, we're not going to show up at your door right away. What we do is oversee a process. It's called a continuum. Continuing process of improvement and scrutinizing how it is that our emergency handles, or our municipality handles emergencies. So we do that through a 4-step process. I'll give you a quick overview real quick. First is mitigation. It's kind of our default position, where we look at where we as a municipality and what can we do to lessen our risk to different hazards that might face us. So you might think of something of mitigation like constructing a dam, right, to control floodwaters, maybe insuring your car or your house against loss in the future. It's something that's done before the emergency occurs. Ways that we can prepare and make ourselves a little bit less vulnerable to these hazards. And then from that process, once we make that examination, in terms of preparedness, this is something where maybe stocking up on water in case of a water main break. That was kind of a good, unexpected illustration of a way to be prepared. Preparing for a water main break by having water on hand ahead of time. That's a preparedness activity. We encourage preparedness, not only personal preparedness, but here in the municipality by taking a look at how we respond to emergency situations and how can we stockpile maybe supplies or equipment ahead of time so that we're in a better place to respond to emergencies like that. The next part of it is the response phase. That's pretty self-explanatory. When the storm is here and things are happening in town, what do we do to safely respond to these type of things that happen? So, it says, seeking a shelter. So we had a fire at the high-rise about a year ago, December last year, opening a shelter for people to go into so they're not exposed out in the cold. There's not water and everything else falling down on you from the high-rise fire. That's a response. That's us being out there in the field and taking those plans that we made ahead of time during the mitigation preparedness phase, putting them into action. And then finally, the recovery. That's when we look at what occurred and figure out, okay, what do we need to do to get back on our feet, and how can we get back to that phase of mitigation of how do we prevent this from happening again or mitigate the risks so that it's not as destructive next time around. So that's kind of the continuum and what we do as coordinators. We're not necessarily first responders, but we work hand in hand with first responders. We anticipate what's going to happen when that big storm does occur or some type of big disaster does occur, and our municipal resources are expended, and we can't handle everything on our own. We coordinate with our neighbors for mutual aid purposes. Other nonprofits, maybe the American Red Cross or the National Guard, or things like that, they all have something they can offer, and that's part of what we do as coordinators. We also maintain the Municipal Emergency Operations Plan. What that does is basically boil down to black and white our plans of how we're going to manage those different types of responses. So it puts down into writing in a situation like an evacuation. Is it the police department, the fire department, EMS, volunteers, or all of the above that are going to have some type of response to these type of events? And that's how we set ahead of time our response to those type of things. So in that document, we submit that to the state police for review every 4 years just to make sure that it meets all the requirements. And so that's part of our duties and responsibilities here. We also work with other community organizations for the same purpose. Many of the big organizations, the hospital, the community continuing care facilities in town, and the school systems, they all have emergency operations plans of their own. So we work with them to identify areas that we could improve it, make it better. We also work with them to exercise all those different things, try it out, have drills, have functional exercises, and see what worked, what didn't, and identify areas of improvement so when the real thing does come, we know that we're prepared. So that's part of what we do. During some other bigger responses, we work doing preliminary disaster assessments. Basically what that means is that when something like a Hurricane Sandy hits New Jersey, the state of New Jersey has to know within 30 days whether or not they're going to request a declaration for disaster from the federal government. The way they do that is through this process. And so we oversee that process of determining what is the extent of damage within our town, and we report that out off the chain so that the governor and his office can make an appropriate determination. There's a few other projects that we work on as well, just for the same purpose. First one that we're working on right now is the municipal resources inventory. We also coordinate the response to Code Blue, and we have a new program called Smart 911. I'm going to talk a little bit about all these things. The first one is a inventory of municipal resources. Basically, this is a database. It's been provided to us. We're lucky enough to have the County of Sussex qualify for all the municipalities in Sussex County to get this. And what it is a listing of all the personnel and equipment that could be used in an emergency response. And once it's put it into the system, all the information, we can track for accountability purposes on a scene what type of equipment and personnel is there and when it leaves. That's great for the safety officers. They have a barcode scanning app. So when an apparatus arrives with 5 firemen on it. They quickly scan, and they know for the duration, these different people are there, this is who's here, and this is the apparatus that we hear. The added benefit as well is that if there is something with a declaration where we could be reimbursed from FEMA as a municipality, we have all this pre-populated into the system, and it gives us a rundown of all the equipment and personnel that were on this site and used during this response. So it could really, putting the effort in and populating this ahead of time is really going to pay dividends in the long run. So that's one of the first things that we're working on. Second thing is Code Blue. You may have heard a lot about it. It's a law that was recently enacted in New Jersey. It's been something that we've kind of practiced anyway, but now it is the law that certain municipalities meet a requirement where you have to ensure that there's somewhere for people to go if there's a stretch of very cold weather, overnight weather. So in Newton, we do have people that either don't have a place to live, or the place that they do live is insufficient to shelter them from the different elements. They don't have enough insulation, or they just don't have heat, whatever the case is. So we do have people who are at risk of severe injury or death from cold weather. And this actually came from an incident which happened a number of years ago down in Bridgeton, where a gentleman was homeless. He was seeking shelter. He went to a Samaritan Inn, Samaritan. I forget the name of the something like So he went. He was really what he was seeking was clothing or shelter, right? And so he went there. The place was closed for the night. It was getting cold. And he found one of those clothing collection bins. So he went inside for either to find clothing or just to seek shelter for a bit, and he ended up succumbing to all of the elements. And people in the neighborhood were like, this shouldn't happen. We have places, we should have places to go, at least just to weather the storm until it warms up the next day. So what they came up with was this Code Blue plan where we ensure emergency warming centers are available for people to go to. It's not necessarily a full-on shelter. It's just a place to go, get out of the cold, warm up, and have some shelter for the night. It's just to get you through till the next day. So in Newton, this is what we've been working on, creating a plan since we have we have quite a few people that are at risk and have taken advantage of these services. We have a plan now where people can come to the police station, they can call the homeless hotline, and they can seek shelter. Sometimes they're able to get immediate emergency housing through the county social services, and if they're not, we have a plan where we can make sure that at the very least they're not going to be turned away out to the cold. So that's a little bit about the Code Blue, what we've been doing. Again, it's not the same as a shelter where we have beds and food and things like that. This is just a place, literally could be the lobby of the police station, where you can come in, warm up, charge your phone, and wait it out until next morning. Go right past that one too. All right, so Smart 911, this is kind of something that we've spent a lot of time with. We've been working with the Newton Police Department to get this in our 911 center. Really a fantastic tool, and I love talking about this because there's so many benefits to it. This is something that runs alongside our 911 software in our dispatch center. So when somebody calls 911, traditionally, you get very limited information about that caller. This runs alongside it and shows supplemental data about that caller so that we can have a more informed approach to how we're going to help them and get them the help that they need. Among other things, it gives very highly accurate data about the caller's location. That's something people probably don't realize. It's not the case with New Jersey's 911 system. It's quite antiquated. It's really been neglected, quite honestly, for quite a while. And now with this Smart 911 technology, the location of the caller is much, much better and tells us exactly where they're going to, most of the time, exactly where they're going to be at. In addition, individuals can log into this system and create a profile and provide information about themselves, their families, and things that might be relevant to emergency responders when there's a situation arises where you need to call 911. It can give that dispatcher that little bit of information that could get you help quicker or get you the more appropriate help that you might need right away. I'll go a little bit into that in a moment. Dispatchers can initiate text messaging conversations, something that we've never been able to do before. We can, if somebody, sometimes we get these calls where the caller is not able to communicate with us for whatever reason. Maybe they're in duress, maybe they're having a medical emergency, I don't know. But we can start with a text message, and we've had a lot of success with the text messaging. People sometimes, if they call 911, they have to hang up, and we call them back. People don't answer the phone for whatever reason. Sometimes they just see the number, and they don't want to answer an unknown number. So now we can send a text message and say, hey, this is the Newton Police. We got a 911 call. Is everything okay? So there's a lot of advantages to that. This also allows us to send out emergency alerts to people who sign up for those profiles. And you can also opt in for a special needs registry. I'll talk a little bit about that more too, but that's for planning purposes, and that's a voluntary thing where you can provide additional data so that we can adjust our response plans accordingly. So this is just a quick view I put up here. I don't know how well you can see this, but this is what you see as a dispatcher in our 911 center. This is kind of the standard throughout the state. It doesn't really give you much information. This is an actual 911 call I placed from my own cell phone. If you can tell, really the only thing that you can tell from the caller here is the phone number. It doesn't just say my name. It gives a location, a GPS location, which is very, very broad. And that's it. If I'm not able to articulate what's wrong for whatever reason, maybe I'm just frantic, that's when you really rely on your dispatcher to interrogate that caller and get more information. This is the mapping system that goes with it. Again, it's kind of the standard that is in the state of New Jersey today. I think the bombers in World War II had better maps than this did, but this is what the standard is. So fast forward to the Smart 911 system. This is the interface that people use when logging in to populate their profile. And this is what the dispatcher now sees. Everything from the person's name, which they didn't have before, as you saw, to the home address, medical conditions, rescue considerations. Maybe mom is in this bedroom on the second floor and she can't get out if there's a fire. Very important stuff to know. Location of medication, Narcan, things like that in the home, which could speed the responsible medical assistance. All sorts of things can be populated into this profile, which we've never had. Just a quick one down there. As you saw, all we got before was the phone number. Now we see allergies, locations of shutoffs for utilities in the house, emergency contacts, all sorts of different stuff. You think of it if you want to put it in there. In addition to those type of things in the home, you can also create a profile for a business or a facility in town. So if a 911 call comes in from that facility, it'll populate literally with a map of that facility, and it'll notate the location of alarms, utility shutoffs, locations of boundaries of the property, emergency contact information, hazmat information, anything you can think of that would be relevant to a first responder responding to that facility in an emergency, can be populated into that profile as well. This slide here, I just wanted to give a quick illustration of how much better this location, the caller location function is. This is an actual 911 call that we had. I mapped it out on Google Maps to show you, what the area of confidence is for that 911 call traditionally. This is a real 911 call. As you can see, the caller could be anywhere from Home Depot to Spring Street to who knows where. And as you can imagine, as a dispatcher, trying to get information in emergency, it's very difficult to boil it down. This is the information we had from the new systems, Rapid SOS location for Smart 911. This is Mill Street here, HAX is down here, and this is Brookside Terrace, the high-rise. This front corner of the building is where the system thought the call was coming from. It was coming from that corner apartment on one of those floors there. It nailed it. And that emergency was entirely helpful to getting the caller help much quicker. So it's that much better. Sometimes we get some questions about, is it safe for me to provide this type of information about myself online? I'm not really comfortable providing certain things, but I want to provide other things. The nice thing about it is you provide what you want. Nothing is mandatory. You can provide as much or as little information as you feel comfortable with. The dispatchers and the system administrators can only see that information if a 911 call is placed. So I can't go on there and say, hey, I want to look up, Dan Finkel and see what his home address is. Can't do it. It only is prompted on there when a 911 call is placed from that number. It's also, they use the latest security, the same security that your bank uses to keep your information safe. It's a safe standard. So if you're interested in signing up for that, it's very easy to do. It's smart911.com. Go on Google, type in Newton Police. You'll find our website. You can get the link from there. But it's an awesome system. In the Detective Bureau, this week alone, I think we had 4 missing person cases that we handled. 2 of them were successfully and quickly closed out. Person was found because of using this system. It was really tremendous as an investigative tool to find those people and make sure they're safe. So I can't say enough good stuff about it. I hope to see it deployed through the rest of the county and the state. Right now, we're the only ones in the county that have it. I think it's a tremendous tool. I could stand up here all night and talk about it. So check it out on our website. If you have any questions, please give me a call. Thank you.
Dan and Kenny, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to stick around in case there's some questions for you during the second public portion. But at this time, do we have any comments or questions from council? Dan?
No, I feel safe having you two at the helm of the department, so thank you. Thanks for coming in and doing the presentation. I think the Smart 911 should be, if we can help you present it to the public to get more awareness, let us know what we can do.
I will say our OEM division is probably a hidden treasure, right? It's not something that is actively out in the public eye, like the police department, fire department, Newton First Aid Squad, et cetera, because as you said, most of the work that you're doing is preparedness work, behind the scenes work. But Dan, you made a comment about we're not necessarily first responders. Fortunately for us, our OEM team are first responders as well. So personally, being at water main breaks, the high-rise fire, and anything else that comes along my fire department radio in my kitchen that I can respond to, I know that you guys are always first on the scene as well, and not necessarily because you're on duty, right? Same thing with Chief Miller. It's not necessarily because he was responding to the fire department, but you guys are also wearing dual hats. I think the other thing that we have the benefit of benefiting from having our own OEM division is that because we're the county seat again, and typically responses into town are either supported by mutual aid or, like in the case of the high-rise fire, we had the sheriff's department, we had, all sorts of mutual aid coming in lots of different ways from lots of different organizations, not just, fire. You guys really are the coordinators on the scene, right? So fire chief coordinates fire chief, crews, staffs, mutual aid. Police departments doing police work and public safety work, and then OEM is really kind of coordinating all the efforts in and around. You guys also, in addition to Tom, are our public figures, whether it's news media releases or responses or updates. I know that many of us get those real-time updates at the same time that you're kind of pushing them out to either partner organizations. You guys are coordinating with Tom responses, notifying the public on updates, whatever the case may be. So there is a lot of behind the scenes going on. You mentioned, in addition to the Smart 911 initiative, you mentioned Code Blue. And the last time I sat in on the meeting, the town of Newton was the only municipality in Sussex County that had a formal Code Blue response. Is that still the case?
Yeah, it is.
And in many cases, because of the population that you're helping to support in those efforts through Code Blue, they're not always Newton residents. Many times they're residents from all of the municipalities across the county. And so, again, being the only municipality in Sussex County to have a formal Code Blue response, I think it should be is worth noting as well, and that you guys are directly doing that. So Thank you for the presentation. I know we asked for an update, but I thought that it was quite timely, given that the newspapers of records also just put out an article about the Smart 911 technology. So like Census 2020 and like the others, we're trying to get more and more people aware of those services that are available that not only help your guys in your job, help you guys in your job, but also help our residents in a more responsive way. So thank you. Councilwoman Diglio, anything?
I'd just like to thank you for all that you do. I know we work with you sometimes between the first aid squad. Thank you.
Councilman Schaffer?
Yeah, would it be possible for us to extract at least the portion of the presentation from the council, the entire meeting video, and maybe post it on the website for people to, ease of public access for reference? This was a really good presentation. I think a lot of people would benefit from, especially doing the Smart 911.
And components of this too, Dan, are also on the Newton PD website, right? So we can already do some sharing of information there. Okay. Anything else, Councilman Schaffer?
No.
Councilman Dixon?
Just thank you guys for coming. Thank you for everything you do. And if you need anything, we're trying to think of some Smart 911 promotion things, but anything else, just feel free to reach out to any one of us and we'll see what we can do. So.
And again, if you guys will stick around for the second public, that would be great. All right, we'll move on to ordinances. We have introduction of ordinance 2019-14. This is an ordinance to establish minimum and maximum wage salaries and wages for officers and employees of the town of Newton for the calendar year 2020. Do I have a motion to introduce?
Make a motion to introduce ordinance 2019-14.
All right, I have an introduction by Councilman Schaffer, a second by Deputy Mayor Flynn. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schlaffer?
Yes.
Mayor LaFois?
Yes. All right, we have no old business tonight. We will move to resolutions. We have Resolution 229-2019, and we have this under resolution as opposed to consent because, Councilwoman Diglio, you are recusing yourself from this, right? So Resolution 229-2019, this is a resolution authorizing the transfer of ownership of an ambulance from the town of Newton to the Newton First Aid Squad.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Flynn and a second by Councilman Dixon on Resolution 229-2019. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio?
Recluse.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schlaffer?
Yes.
Mayor LaFois?
Yes. All right, so we have the consent agenda. Deputy Mayor Flynn has asked that Resolution 237-2019 is pulled for further discussion. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the Town Council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the council member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Tom, can you run down the consent agenda minus 237?
Sure. We have a change of procedure for claimant certification as proposed by the new CFO. We have a revised resolution for signatories for the Newton Green Consolidated Court, reappointment of Keith Mitchell as risk management consultant, my reappointment to the statewide insurance fund. We have a resolution directing the town planning board to review amendments to Patterson Avenue redevelopment, change orders for Church Street and Plainfield Avenue projects. 238 is a refund, 239 performance-based bonus for the town manager, 240 credits to water and sewer utility accounts, 241 is the 4-year agreement with UPSU, bills and vouchers, and then one junior firefighter application.
Any other resolutions for further discussion?
We pull 239 as well.
239, Matt. 237 is Dan. Okay, any other resolutions? Okay, do I have a motion on the consent?
Make a motion on the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Schlaffer and a second by Councilman Dixon. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schlaffer?
Yes.
Mayor LaFois?
Yes. All right. Deputy Mayor Flynn, the floor is yours with regards to Resolution 237-2019.
Yes, so obviously there's been some talk over this over the past couple months, so I don't think it should be ambiguous, and we should just lay it out on the table as Mr. Hoffman and Mrs. Baldini have expressed their concerns into the microphone. Mr. Russo is a highly ambitious and well-respected town manager in northern New Jersey. If you mention his name, if you're fortunate enough to talk to other people in the municipal profession, you mention his name and he's your town manager, you're in good hands. I'm proud when I go to other towns. I get to work with other towns from Bergen County to Mercer and Ocean County, and when I say his name, you know, it is. Yeah, I'm proud that I'm from the town of Newton because I know that things are going to be done effectively and efficiently, and that we have a manager that is going to get the job done. We have redevelopment plans that have been in the works for upwards of 5 years that are coming to fruition now, and Tom has been negotiating those successfully for as long as since their inception. We didn't have redevelopment plans prior to Tom Russo coming to this town. We didn't have a stable financial system prior to Tom Russo coming to this town. We didn't have a fund bank to rely on. We didn't have surplus to rely on like we do now. We don't have $2.4 million in surplus in the bank, which we've had for the last 2.5 years, and it's been growing, where we're able to balance the budget in a smart, effective manager from our position here on the dais. When we were told the other day that Chief Richards was retiring and the lieutenant was retiring, I was on the phone with the mayor, and you know, it was a shock to us all, but I said to her, I said, well, I'm completely confident that Tom's going to restructure the police department in the most effective, correct, and accurate manner, and see that it's staffed properly without any kind of labor issues or disputes. That's the kind of person he is. He just gets the job done. You know, Mr. Hoffman, you're a very well-respected man in the community. I have a lot of respect for you. I thought what you've done with the robotics team for the past 8 or 10 years, or however long it has been. I've been in the town for 10 years now. It's commendable, but you know, you're entitled to your opinion, but I disagree with it, and I stand behind Tom Russo. So he's the right manager for the town. He might not like, you know, personalities aside, everybody just has some problems with him. When you look at the facts and the performance, the job gets done. We've been giving a stipend for mileage to the manager in this town for like 12 years. It's nothing new. In fact,
20 plus years.
20 plus years. In fact, we're actually giving his car away, which is going to cost, because the car's paid for, but it has a bad metric, so we're not giving him the car anymore in the new contract. So take it as you will. It was probably a ill-advised decision, but because the optics of it don't match up with what some people perceive as what the town manager should and should not receive from this town. You cannot compare a town in Warwick, which actually has like an elected superintendent who may or may not be full-time. He's not the CEO of an organization. He does not appoint the chief of police. He does not hire and fire at will. He is not in charge of a $16 million budget, $4 million of which is water and sewer. It's just not the same. You can't even compare him to a town administrator of a town that's 4 times the size, because the borough council, the borough or town council is going to do the hiring and firing of the CFO, of the attorney, of any kind of personnel within the town. We don't do that here. We might affirm it through a resolution, but it's really not up to us, and we put our faith in a CEO of an organization that's going to see that it gets done, and if it's not done effectively, he answers to the council. So I support his employment fully, and in fact, the town would be better off if it would. That aside, the 4-year contract, I'm completely confident that that is the best decision this council can make from here on out moving forward, that we have someone in the right position in that seat. So, that's all I have to say.
Councilman Diglio?
I agree totally what Dan Flynn has had to say. Tom, you've always been there to answer any question that I've ever had. I've walked in your office many times, just sat down and said, we need to talk. And we might not have always agreed, but we've always talked things out. And you have listened many, many times. And I appreciate the fact that I can sit down, talk to you, and you will listen to what I have to say. And in all honesty, a lot of people have kind of blamed you for the pool. And in reality, I believe I had a little bit in that because it was me who recommended that we had the core studies done because of the way the pool was cracking. And you concurred with me, and that's why we had core studies done to make sure that there was nothing wrong with underneath before we repaired the pool again for the third time. And so we were being, shall we say, dollar-wise and not penny foolish, or should say, whatever way you want to put it. Thank you for listening, and thank you for listening to the rest of us when it comes to many other issues.
Councilman Schaffer?
Yeah, just want everyone to know in the public, anything that you guys brought forth, we considered and discussed. We weighed it against the performance of Mr. Russo, and we also took a hard look at the contract and the language of it and tried to make something, like Dan said, in some cases maybe we made a decision based on the optics of it to make it seem a little more appropriate, even though that this particular move might actually cost us more money by not giving him the car. But you know, we did our best. Compromises were made on all sides. We considered your guys' opinion, the people who come in and make comments. We considered amendments from the council itself and from Mr. Russo himself. And in many cases, Mr. Russo actually made further compromise that was to the town's benefit, not his own. So I really think that this contract is a fantastic example of the working relationship the council has.
Councilman Dixon?
Yeah, this was a process that we put much thought into. It wasn't just rash. I feel the concerns were listened to, but we also had to take into account the overall big picture of business in the town going forward. Concerns were heard and listened to, like I said, whether it was by the council or Mr. Russo himself. We looked at other municipalities and what their contracts are like. Living in a town, that's not something that would be practical. We added language into the contract about outside employment, and if it interfered with performance, the council can require those outside employment things to be stopped. We addressed vacant property concerns and performance goals. The good and bad was heard not only from the residents who come to the meetings, but various professionals, businesses, developers. It was all taken into account through the entire review and contract process. Although I might have been thinking maybe 3 years was better, I feel that there were a lot of good things with the contract, so that's really all I have to say about it right now.
So I'll finish with my comments. For those of you that are paying attention to the council agendas, you know that we had 2 executive sessions over many hours related to Mr. Russo's contract, negotiations, review, et cetera. And that's exactly what a contract is. It's a negotiation. And I have to defend the process, and I find exception with accusations that the process has not been transparent, because we allow multiple public sessions at each council meeting. We take into consideration everything that is not only said, that is recorded on video, but also documents that are handed to us. In response to the documents that have been submitted, we took a look at a number of things. As my colleagues have said, we did research and looked at what other town managers under a similar form of government were making in like-sized towns, similar budgets, similar projects, and Mr. Russo is compensated accordingly and accurately based on the work that he does. Some of those towns were listed earlier, and some of the salaries listed, many of which are not the same form of government. As Deputy Mayor Flynn has said, many of them have they might have a business administrator making $80,000 and a mayor that's making another $80,000. There's your $160,000, in addition to supplementary staff. Also doesn't take into considerations for some of the other towns listed, because we did, again, our research that some of those town managers have not been on the job for 12 years, as Mr. Russo has, and the work that he has put out. 4 years is a very reasonable contract. As I mentioned, this is a negotiation, has been a negotiation, as we do with our PBA, SOA, UPSA, and others, and all contracts are negotiated. As my colleagues have said, 5 years was on the table, 4 years was a consideration. The car, not having the car. As someone else said on the council, the last 4 managers have had car allowances that at this rate would cost the town more than Mr. Russo having the car. Nevertheless, Mr. Russo is turning in the car as of November 30th. The last 3 out of the 4 managers do not live in the town of Newton. As a matter of fact, we have higher paid positions in this town of Newton that don't even live in the state. So the issue of residency being brought up for us was a non-starter. When I oversaw the hearings in executive session with regards to Mr. Russo's contract, the very first question I asked of the council was, is there anyone interested going out to the public to look for a new town manager? The unanimous decision, without any further consideration needed, was no. No one was interested in posting the position, looking for another town manager, going under the process, the expense, the energy, or the resources that it would take to look for another town manager, because it was not a question on whether Tom Russo was the right person to be in the position. It would be hypocritical of me, although we have language in Tom's contract, to say that Tom couldn't do anything during his personal time. I have a full-time job running a $5 million nonprofit that I work many hours beyond 40 hours a week, all different hours of the night. But I'm also a councilwoman serving as your mayor for the last 18 months, speak on panels throughout the state of New Jersey in an educational forum with regards to nonprofit management. I also serve on 2 boards of directors of nonprofit agencies and organizations. I choose to do that on my personal time and hope that I do that job well. So it would be hypocritical of me to tell Tom what he could and couldn't do on his personal time, as long as he's responsive and doing his job as the town manager of the town of Newton. We have 6 active redevelopment projects going on in the town right now. As Deputy Mayor Flynn said, there were lots of things that wouldn't be going on in this town if Tom Russo wasn't sitting in the seat. I'll name some additional projects. Those redevelopment projects, that Thor Labs construction, the Thor Labs expansion, our fund balance, over $2 million that's sitting in there. I sat on the council back in 2008 where we had $138,000 roughly in fund balance, relatively no savings account, and we were increasing taxes. The budget having relatively a 0 increase amount this year, and if you look back historically the last few budgets, pennies on the dollar, that's all good fiscal management and good fiscal responsibilities. Those are the duties of a full-time town manager. We now have water and sewer plans. The town did not have water and sewer plans. We now have a 10-year capital improvement plan laid out with plans to help the tax burden on the residents in the future. That's smart planning. Our transect zoning, the work that's being done by the planning board, that's all out of smart management coming out from the town manager's office. We have more grants coming into the town of Newton now than we have in the past. Again, grants that are helping our law enforcement agencies, grants that are helping our first responders, grants that are helping in community services, public outreach, education, as well as fun activities in the town. We now have a vacant properties ordinance. I mentioned Thor Labs. People love Thor Labs and like to complain about Thor Labs at the same time. I've been to 8 special events in the last 2 weeks where Thor Labs was the major, if not the largest sponsor. This is a corporation that continues to give back to the community and also the town of Newton in terms of sponsoring our special events. Speaking of special events, if you're paying attention to the calendar, we have more community raising events and awareness events now than we've ever had in this municipality. The festivals, the events, the coordination with the Greater Newton Chamber of Commerce, our businesses, the social media, those are all initiatives that Mr. Russo handles out of his office. As he mentioned, he's no longer affiliated with the Valori Group. We have a new chief of police that's going to be coming in, and another retirement that was named the same day. Because of the civil service process, we're looking at having an interim or an acting chief for up to 9 months in the town of Newton. Another component that needs to be handled that's going to be managed by Mr. Russo, and the ability to restructure the police department and open up opportunities for a department that has a lot of depth and breadth, and that we're blessed to have the trained officers that we have. That training, that succession planning, the work that they do, the outreach that they do, is because Mr. Russo cultivates a culture in which our law enforcement is able to carry on these activities, as you saw demonstrated tonight. We also have a new CFO. It would be irresponsible of this council to look for new leadership with a new CFO coming in, running an $18 million business, not having gone through a budget cycle yet in the town of Newton. Another reason why this town council factored in the importance of a 4-year contract. I talked about the survey that we did, sampling other towns, again, that came out of the research that was presented to us that we wanted to look into further. And I'll just finish on that this was a unanimous decision, one that we deliberated over multiple hours over 2 council meetings. So along with my colleagues, I defend this contract, and certainly we'll have another opportunity for the public to weigh in. But if there's no other comments from the council at this point, I need a motion to move on resolution 137, or 237-2019.
For resolution 237.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Flynn and a second by Councilman Schlaffer. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Diglio?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schlaffer?
Yes.
Mayor LaFois?
Yes. Councilman Dixon, the floor is yours for resolution 239-2019.
Yeah, I don't know if I missed something. Did we approve that during executive, or because I didn't think we were contractually obligated?
So the contract that we were discussing is for December 1st, 2019 and forward.
Mm-hmm.
This is from previous.
I didn't think that was contractually obligated in 17 or whatever it was, 17, 18. Yeah, the last contract, the previous one.
Yeah, so similar to what we did last year, but I'd also put in a phone call to you to call me back. But this is
requested.
yeah, and
in the end of year employment request.
and it's consistent with what we did last year. And I don't have that resolution number, but certainly can get it for you. Any other questions on resolution 239-2019? All right. Having said that, I need a motion, please.
Motion approved.
Second.
I have a motion to move resolution 239-2019 by Councilman Schlaffer and a second by Deputy Mayor Flynn. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Dixon?
No.
Mrs. Diglio?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Schlaffer?
Yes.
Mayor LaFois?
Yes. All right. Do we have any other discussions on the agenda tonight?
What number was that? 239.
Okay. Mr. Russo, I don't have any other discussion items on the agenda. Nothing else?
No.
Okay. All right. We will move on to the second public session. Anyone wishing to come forward, please state your name and address for the record.
Alan Abramson, Giancarlo Lane, here in Newton. First, I want to say, Madam Mayor, I apologize.
No worries.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's all right.
With that being said, when I left the house tonight, I had absolutely no plans on standing where I'm standing right now. None. I saw on the agenda was the word ambulance and first aid squad, and that's what caught my attention, and that's why I showed up. But after being here, personally, I experienced something for me, which is why I said, when you said public session, I said personal. I want to address the town manager. I am going to refer to him as Tom, only because I'm older than you are, and probably older than everybody in front of me. With that being said, I experienced tonight courage, strength, humility, and honesty coming from a very direct place within you. My personal opinion, I think to do what you did tonight, Tom, was over the top, not easy, and parts of what you said struck a chord with me. With that being said, I just want to say the town council, I'm sure, was not able to say things like I just said, and your comments were about job and work ethic, as it should be. I wanted to say my comments are at a much more personal level, one that I appreciate, and one that when I walk out of here tonight, I hope I'll have the occasion of meeting Tom, who I've never had before. And I am glad to see your decision. I am glad that Tom will be part of the community, which makes me glad that I'm part of the community. Thank you for the opportunity.
Mr. Iverson, and I know that you attended the veterans ceremony, so on a separate note, thank you for your service and thank you for being here in your in the service that you do for the Legion, I believe is why you were here, right? So
Yes.
thank you for 2 Saturdays ago as well, and thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Hi, Margaret Baldini, Barry Lane again. So I have a little bit of a rebuttal. I know it's a very emotional meeting, but I just wanted to make things a little bit more clear. I'm glad that you're taking away the car. That did look bad for all of us to, give him that perk when we're all struggling here. So we're not criticizing Mr. Russo as much as we are for you guys just letting him get away with all of that, So, Mr. Russo, I'm sorry for your personal tragedy, but, the things that we've witnessed here, it doesn't coincide with the reality of what happens out there in Newton. So, you can say that you're a born-again Christian, but the reality of what we've seen, it doesn't mesh with that. So, we have 90-year-old ladies being harassed about their driveways and things like that. It's just not right. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hunter Gallo, Old Foundry Road, Stillwater. I know I'm not a Newton resident. I'm hoping that...
That's all right.
Yeah. So, much like the first speaker, again, thank you for your service. I came here with no intention to speak. I have very little background knowledge on the situation, and I'm only expressing what I've seen here and my own general knowledge of the way that the public thinks that government should work on the municipal level. And I feel as though the idea that we and you as a council, as difficult as your decision may be, would make a decision based on optics, even though it is what seems to be necessary for a lot of the public. I personally feel that the idea that the society has come to that has corroded the process of government as a whole. And I feel that Mr. Russo's story has been fantastic. And, I hold this cross here in my hand as well. And I feel like the idea that a government would be forced by its people to make decisions based purely on optics and not on the reality of the finances that go into putting together what you all have to put together and making a town run. I just find that difficult to comprehend. Thank you.
Maureen Snellen, Plainfield Avenue. I never have an intention to speak here. It seems like every time I come to a council meeting, I do speak. I don't understand the expense of looking for a new town manager. At least interviewing and seeing what's out there. You say there is nobody better out there. How do we know? What's the expense? Putting something in the newspaper? The time to interview somebody? I don't understand the expense part of that. That's all I really have to say about that. Thank you.
John Daly, 57 Trinity Street, and I have a couple businesses in town, and I got this newsletter from the Newton News, and in it says, support our local businesses, big and small. They are the engine which drives the economy. Town of Newton doesn't use this. I've been in business over 30 years, and I don't think I made, well, I probably didn't make $1 off the town of Newton. And we have a print shop, and we have a paint store, and we don't sell anything to the town. It says right there, please support local businesses. And when the own town doesn't do it, it kind of hurts. I'd also like to ask, I know it's a school matter, but I teach at Kittatinny, and we have a population decrease quite a bit. And Newton looks like they tried twice now to expand and put a big addition on, or a new high school. And if there was any way the council can get the superintendents, because at one time we were all one, and then Kittatinny was built in 75. They have plenty of space over there. Newton has overcrowding over here, and at some level, if they can offer some shared services or something, that would be a tremendous savings for Newton, as well as Hampton or Kittatinny. If anybody would maybe go forward looking into something like that. And I know Thor Labs does a lot of donations. Was anyone asked them if they would maybe help out with the pool as well? Something like that. They might be.
They are.
They are.
Oh, they are going to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so something like that. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
And also it wasn't even sent to me. I've been a resident here, well, the business over 20-some years, but it was mailed to someone that hasn't been there in 8 years. So I don't know who has the mailing list, but I didn't receive it in my two businesses. I got it from another business that's no longer there.
Mr. Daly, what businesses do you own?
I have the one literally on the corner here.
The Benjamin Moore shop?
The paint shop?
And the paint spot.
Okay. And then as far as the Kittatinny and the shared services, I'm the liaison to the Board of Ed, so I'll make sure I bring that to them.
Yeah, I think that'd be a
okay?
great idea.
Yeah, so I will bring that to them.
All right, thank you.
Any other?
John Paul Coos, captain of the Newton First Aid Squad, speaking on behalf of the Newton First Aid Squad, 68 Sussex Street, Newton. Firstly, I apologize for my address. I drove here directly from New Brunswick and didn't want to miss a minute of the meeting. Secondly, and the point of my speaking here is that the First Aid Squad would like to extend its appreciation to the council, Mr. Russo, Ms. Leo, for your work in your assistance in getting Resolution 229 passed. The transfer of ownership of the ambulance to the squad does assist us greatly in moving forward with our licensure process and enhancing the service to the town. So thank you very much.
Any other comments from the public? No question of our OEM representatives? Okay, any other questions from the public, comments? All right, we'll close that portion of the meeting, and we'll move on to councilor and manager comments. Mr. Russo?
I want to thank the town council for their support and vote of confidence. I also want to express gratitude to the residents, business owners, visitors, staff, professionals, and volunteers for their kind words all these years. We have many accomplishments to be proud of and more work to be done as we continue to move Newton forward. As the county seat, we have a responsibility to be wise with tax dollars, smart with development opportunities, and respectful of the opinions of others. We can disagree without being disagreeable, strive for excellence over perfection, and be thankful we have a community of great people to serve. I am fortunate to be here and consider it a blessing to be the town manager of Newton for another 4 years. Finally, I pray the blessings of love, peace, hope, and joy to everyone this Thanksgiving and coming holiday season. God bless the town of Newton. Thank you.
Councilman Dixon?
Nothing else besides just happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Councilman Schlaffer? Councilwoman Diglio?
I wish everybody a safe and happy Thanksgiving. And
Deputy
please, I want to see you at the parade.
Mayor Flynn?
Nothing for me at this time.
So before we go into executive session, the one other comment, just looking back at my notes, that I'll make is we oftentimes hear we elect you to make decisions, we elect you to represent us, and I'll just say that not all decisions are easy, not all decisions are hard. Some decisions take more deliberations than others. Not every decision is going to make everyone happy. And undoubtedly, in a diverse population as ours, with over 8,000 residents, 11,000 people in town on a daily basis because of the county seat and the businesses, certainly all decisions aren't going to make everyone happy. So I want to thank the council for their due diligence and their hard work over the last couple of executive sessions. We have the last portion of that tonight to actually deliver Tom's review. And so I want to also thank OEM for being here. Again, I've said this many, many times in sitting in this seat, which is only for a few more weeks. I know that'll make some people happy, but I've said it time and time again that I welcome the public to come to council meetings to express their opinions, whether we agree, disagree, your observations of what's going on in the town, the successes, the suggestions for improvement. We welcome all of it. That's what municipal government is all about. I said this a couple times down at the league last week. Politics is not fun, and R&D issues get ugly and sticky. But one of the things that we're most proud about at the municipal level is that the decisions that we make here are the decisions that affect the day-to-day lives of the people that live, work, and play in this town. And those are issues like, are the services good in the town that I get? Is my police department going to respond when I need them? Is my fire department and first aid squad going to respond when I need them? Are my schools good? Are my streets safe? Do I like living here? Are there businesses to go to when I need to go to? Those are not R&D issues. Those are municipal government issues. And those are the issues that the elected officials, in conjunction with the town manager, overseeing our business and our employees as our CEO, deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so we like to celebrate when there's reasons to celebrate, and we do the hard work when there's hard work and decisions to be made. But I think resolutely and resoundingly we stand behind those decisions, which is, I'm sure, what you heard tonight. So having said that, I need a motion to go into executive session. This is Resolution 243-2019, a resolution providing for a meeting not open to the public in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-12. I, personnel, regarding the town manager's annual review. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Diglio and a second by Councilman Dixon to go into executive session at 8:40 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all